Great Britain over the election of a climate denialist administration in Brazil and the constant re-election of corrupt regimes in post-socialist states, to the growth of opposition to vaccination and new hazards to public health, democracy seems to be producing substandard epistemic results. However, in both academia and layperson political culture, democracy has been enshrined as a system that best respects every citizen's freedom and political equality. However, it is worth inquiring whether average voters, some of whom are neither informed nor unbiased and impartial, can be trusted to choose the correct option. For decades, studies in political epistemology, political behavior studies, and sociology have shown that citizens do not possess the most basic political knowledge and cannot even articulate their moral values. How can their electoral choices reflect the real common good? This home conference aims to establish whether majoritarian democracy can outlast its harsh critics. Sanya, can you introduce the Center for Advanced Studies?
Thanks a lot, Hannah. Firstly, thank you so much for the concept of this conference. Well, we are used to your prodigy nature, but this is extraordinary, and the concept that you gave us is so urgent, and I'm very much looking forward to hear our speakers. I wish you all the very best, and welcome on behalf of the Center for Advanced Studies at the University of Rijeka. Our center is struggling in these times of pandemics, and we still succeeded in the first wave to get our guests from all over Europe. And we continue that in sort of a hybrid form, because as there is always a hope at the end of the tunnel, we are going on and planning our activities nowadays in Moïse Palace, which is the new venue of the University of Rijeka and the Center for Advanced Studies, and following all sanitary conditions, organizing events even there. So now, firstly, you're most welcome to join us as soon as circumstances allow us to do so, to come to Rijeka, to visit Tres, and to visit the Moïse Palace. Now, continue on online, because there is no break in such an urgent matters. So before Hannah introduces our first speaker, now I wish to hear our Nenad Miščević, our legend at the University of Rijeka, who is always backing us with his intellectual sharpness and things that he has to say, especially on democracy. Nenad, just unmute your mic. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. But now you are creating too big expectations. I will not be as good as you are suggesting. So let me just give you a few free associations to this, to not only the meeting, but to the whole context of our meeting and of our topic. The only advantage I have here in relation to most other participants is that I'm very old. This makes me, of course, give me some primacy for the COVID vaccine, but also it gives me an opportunity to return to old times. And so let me tell you that when I started doing analytic philosophy, many years ago, half a century ago, I was quite shocked. I came from continental philosophy, and I was used to this situation where continental philosophers, they were crazy about politics and political issues. All my teachers, or most of my teachers, went to public demonstrations. In France, this was a public requirement. You had all the time, you had Sartre, you had Deleuze, you had Foucault in the streets. And in the seminar, they were then combining philosophy with their political engagement.
You're not that old.
Sorry?
You're not that old.
What?
You aren't that old.
It was old. And then when I came back to Yugoslavia and I started doing analytic philosophy, I realized that analytic colleagues are much more into theory, much less into politics. And there were endless discussions of roles. So politics was taken in a very abstract sense, just very general principles. And then you combine it with whatever semantics at that time, and then epistemology, and so on and so on. For myself, I was okay with this. I didn't miss anything much. But then, thanks to our Croatian patriots, and also in Serbia to Serbian patriots, and thanks to Tudjman and these people, we suddenly got a burning political topic, which was nationalism. And I started publishing things in newspapers against nationalism. And I was publishing. I was invited to various places. And at some point I started thinking, I said, why don't I do something philosophical on the topic? And I started working on philosophical theory or abstract theory of nationalism. And there was a bunch of colleagues from Central Europe who also face that nationalism in their home countries. But I think we can be proud, Croats and Serbs, that we were the most crazy. So we had a civil war in Yugoslavia. Other Central European countries didn't have anything like that, so that was big thing. Everybody wanted to publish our papers, and this was my experience in the late 80s, technically, the late 70s and then 80s. And now when Americans and British would come to our philosophical conferences, the attitude was, yes, we are doing these more serious, more central philosophical problems, and we understand that you, Eastern Europeans, you have your political problems, burning problems, and we understand that you are obsessed with this. How interesting. This kind of exotic anthropology. And now, thanks to heroes like Trump and the Brexiters, it has reversed. Suddenly, the mainstream analytic philosophy is doing what we were doing in the 80s, turning to political issues, and it's populism, it's all these idiots that Hannah was listing, who are you start talking to the analytic colleague from America or from Great Britain, and the first thing he says is, "Oh, have you heard this terrible news about Brexit? I'm just writing about it." I said, "Gee, that's so nice." It all sounds like my memories from home from 20, 30 years ago. And it's, above all thanks to Trump, because the American philosophers are worried about their own country. So now we have, what happened is that there is this very dynamic political introduction of the combined issues of epistemology and politics. And now many of us are working on these topics. Hannah started early, and she immediately jumped to organizing a nice international conference. We were supposed to have in Slovenia something similar on blood. And then the blood people said, oh, why don't we postpone this for 2 years? Whereas Hannah had this mentality of, if we postpone it, we'll postpone it for 2 weeks, and this will be too long. So thanks God, we jumped, and this is mostly thanks to Hannah, we jumped into this story. And now, so thanks to Trump, thanks to Hannah, and then thanks to everybody who has come here, we can now all join this very fashionable trend of discussing populism, threats to democracy, together with relatively abstract epistemological, above all virtue epistemological, vice epistemological topics. And we have, of course, first-rate philosophers to do the job. Thanks a lot.